because it referred to the blackened state of the tar that they would use when they wrapped around the linen on the sahu. And that was the word that they called it. The ancient Egyptians, the Ramech, called it sahu. Okay? So what we have here are two sarcophagus. Again, that's a Greek word, and they weren't Greek, so they called it a meste, or a per-unk, which means a house of life. Okay? Again, just reaffirming the fact that we're dealing with people who believe life goes on after death. In fact, I've got to ask just to make sure that you can let people come past, otherwise they kind of complain also. Sorry about that. But this here, what I want to show you is a couple of different things. The first thing that I want to show you is ancient Egypt was not always run by African people. There were times when other non-African people came in and they seized control of the land. Okay? Now this bottom part, okay, is when there was non-African control, and the top is when it wasn't African control. So you can see that when non-African people were coming into Egypt during the intermediate periods, they weren't quite able to replicate the greatness of the art. Okay? But what we do see is that they didn't try to mess with the spiritual systems that were in play. So what you'll notice is the symbology which is on here is relatively the same. And these are things that you are going to see consistently, throughout the entirety of Kemetic art, especially when we're dealing with the dead. Okay? Now, what you have, the first thing I want to go on to is you'll have the eyes. Okay? We've all seen the eyes before. Okay? Usually we call them the eye of Horus or the eye of Ra. Okay? Again, we're African people, okay, so we say it's the eye of Heru. Okay, that's what they call their deity Horus. Okay? Now, does anybody know why they chose the eye or why they chose the symbology by any chance? Right? Okay? So they chose the eye first and foremost because as a human being, your vision is your most important sense. Okay? But what we've got around it are markings of a peregrine falcon. The peregrine falcon is the fastest bird. It can fly 234 miles per hour. Okay? It can fly higher than any other bird. So when the storms, it is faster than Lewis Hamilton, you're damn right. When the storms, okay, they fly above the storm, okay? And also it has the most acute eyesight of any bird. It can spot its prey from 2 miles away, okay? So what our ancestors were saying is, all right, okay, we're gonna wrap this eye in this symbology to suggest that we're gonna be able to see all of the evil and all of the enemies that try to approach me in the afterlife. And what they would do is they would put these eyes at the head side of the casket. So what they're saying ultimately is, no matter where I rest in the afterlife, I'm going to see bad mind, I'm going to see the judgment. So what they're saying is, ultimately, the next thing that they were doing is they're going to slit a hole in your side and they're going to start taking out your organs. What they would do is they take out your lungs, your kidneys, your liver, and they would take out your spleen. Okay? And they will place them into 4 jars. And unfortunately, they're back in there, but I can show you them. Boom. These things here, they were called canopic jars. Unfortunately, I still haven't come across the Kemetic word as to what they would call them, so I'm stuck calling them the Greek word. But ultimately, they represented the 4 sons of Heru, okay? And they would insert parts of the organs into those jars. What they would do then, once they were ready, is place those canopic jars at the cardinal points of the sahu. Again, how we had the eyes at the top of the per-on, you've got these protecting you as well. Okay? So the next stage, after they've removed all of your organs, what they would do is they would get little pouches of sawdust, which was filled with various different herbs and spices, things that smell nice, because you know, we're dealing with a dead body here, it's going to stink. Okay? They didn't have air freshener like we have air freshener back in the day, so they're dealing with insects. Okay? So what they would do is they would pack these sawdust filled pouches of these nice smelling things inside the body, and they would also put salt in there as well. The reason they would put salt in there very simply is because they want to dry out the body. They want to dry the tissue out. They don't want it to decompose. Okay? Once they put all of this salt over the body, what they would do is they would lie the body on a horizontal slab at a slight angle, and they would cover the body in I can't remember what the salt is, I never remember, but they would cover it in salt anyway, and this would dry the body out. They would go away for 35 days, and they would come back, okay? They would remove the salt off, clean the body down again, make sure that it's dirty, sorry, not dirty. They would replace the sacks inside to make sure that, you know, again, we're dealing with a 35-day-year-old dead body here, okay, so it's going to smell. Again, they repackage it all, okay, and then they cover it back up in salt again, and then they come back after another 20 to 30 days, depending on the process of the body, okay. Now, at this stage here now, okay, what they would do, okay, is start wrapping up the body. Okay, they give it a clean down, and then they would literally employ hundreds and if not thousands of yards of different linens and first wraps to wrap the body up. Some samples which have been found to have been wound up so well that individual fingers are being wrapped up, that individual toes are being wrapped up. So just imagine how much care, precision and time is going into preparing the people that they love. Okay? Other things that we start to see through the development of this is the actual, you know, the Per Emperor, the Book of the Dead that we were talking about. Sometimes we actually see lines of the Per Emperor written on the linen, like say we're paying past the parcel. Yeah, you know when you're paying past the parcel and sometimes you get a little surprise? That's what it would be like. Okay? So now we are what? 55 days into the process. Okay, they would wrap the body up to about here. Something which I forgot to tell you, which I'm very annoyed about, is at the very start what they would do is they would cut a hole at the top of your mouth, okay, and then with a spike they would poke out your brain, or they would smudge up your brain, okay, and then with a hook they would insert a hook up your nose and pull out your brain. Now the crazy thing is, at this 55-day mark here, they would actually cut the head open and clean out the inside of the head. So what's strange is why wouldn't they have just done that straight away? Kind of cut the head open opposed to going through all that. I personally think that when the academics have come back to research the process of it, they've looked at various different types of mummification and just merged it together. They were an evolved people. Okay? So anyway, the head's been cleaned out, it's been stuffed with the various different kind of drying salts and perfumes and stuff, and then they leave it until the 65th day. They would come back on the 65th day, smother the mouth with beeswax, smother the ears with beeswax, sew up the mouth, and then continue to wrap up the mummy. Cover it for salt until the 70th day. Okay? And they would leave it for 70 days for a very specific reason. First and foremost, if you're a king or a nobleman or an important person, there's a very good chance that because the life expectancy wasn't, you know, like it is today, you could just die on the spot, which means your tomb or your pyramid or whatever it is that you're choosing to be buried in needs completion. Okay, so that 70 days is integral for people to get the burial completion. Okay, but it gets deeper than this as well. Okay, our ancestors were astronomers by nature. The Sirius star, or the Osiris star, which is the brightest star in the sky, is observably not present in the sky for 70 days a year. So our ancestors have seen this and been like, oh, this person who's died, we want them to symbolize a star. So let's copy the same process that the star is out of the sky. Because when we're talking about Duma, which is heaven, okay, they believe that our ancestors, or sorry, when you die, you go to join the ancestors in the stars. Okay? So it would make sense that our ancestors would watch the stars and do this. And let me tell you this other thing very quickly before we move on, because you know what, dealing with the time, I know we can't even go in on the next one because there's so much in the bottom rooms, yeah? But this is how we know that our ancestors have been here for much longer than that they are prepared to tell us. Because one astrological cycle takes 26,005 years a year. So imagine you've clocked that cycle there. You then have to watch that cycle for a second time to realise that it's come back. You then have to watch it for a third time to realise that it's a pattern. So instantaneously, when we're dealing with astronomy in Africa, we're dealing with people who've been here for nearly 80,000 years, but we only have written history for 6,000. So imagine how much it is that we're still missing, that we can still kind of we've got Kemet, again, who's another god we're going to talk about later. So again, this is why it's so important for us to look and get back into our culture, because they're controlling the narrative for us. Kemet, okay, is the last indigenous African king of Kemet. So after him, we can't even call Kemet no more. We can happily say it's Egypt, and you can have it as Egypt, and that's it. We as African people don't really have too much to do with this place anymore, because we've been kicked out. As we were discussing briefly before, any war creates refugees. Nobody wants to be ruled by a foreign ruler, so they're going to get out of there. So where are they going? They're going back up the river. Okay? They're going west. Okay? And this is just fact. In fact, between 0 AD and 1000 AD, there is something that happened called the Sahel population. Okay? And what European scholars or non-African scholars try to do their hardest is to differentiate that population. They'll say that people traveled from as far as the Middle East to come and bring these things, and we can see the culture living on. It's crazy. Okay? So this is the last African king, Khepra Khafra. Very, very important guy. Before him, okay, there was kings who were sitting on the ground who weren't quite worthy of sitting on the ground, and he was a military guy. He was military, and he was like, you know what? Scrap this. I want to take back control of the country and usurp the crown. Kicked him off the ground. He was like, bro, we're going to start doing things my way. So he became very important and loved by the people because he started to reinstate a lot of the artworks and the artifacts, the temple work that had stopped being done during the reigns of non-African kings. So of course, if you are an Egyptian, a native Kemetic person, and for ages you haven't been able to study and go and pray to Ra, and this guy comes along and he's giving you your temple back, you're going to love him. Okay? So Nectangle, you can tell a lot about it. It's the same all over, there's no accent. Okay? What we're dealing with here, I can never actually say his name. If you look down there, you can see a bit of a magnificence, okay? Which way? There's 2 points that I like to make at this point. Firstly, you'll notice that his left foot is forward. Okay? What is on the left side of our body? Our heart. I think it's in the middle, right? I think I've taken a knowledge card by you, man. Obviously, the heart is on the left. So what they were saying is they were walking in the light and the goodness of the heart, because we already know that the heart is where they store kind of their electrical imprint of their life, their deeds, so to speak. Now, when the Romans and the Greeks came in and the Hellenized
squeeze in a little
they noticed. Sorry, they noticed that that's what they were doing, and then their Roman military marches. That's where we start getting left, right. It's because we're walking, to trample out evil. That was kind of the symbology. Okay. Was a king who was loved by the people, because instead of choosing war and sending his people all across the world to beat out and battle with other people, what he decided to do was be like, you know what? Send me one of your royal women, I'll marry her, and we'll just settle the conflict that way. We'll make trade relations of it. So Amenhotep ended up with, I think it was like between 8 and 12 different wives. Okay? Because another thing that we're dealing with as well is a person in the ancient times who was rich and wealthy, who didn't support more than one family, who had lots of wealth, he was considered a selfish person. Okay? So like polygamy in ancient Egypt, for example, or ancient Africa, was sought upon and then advised because you were helping support multiple people. Okay? But Amenhotep III, literally one of the most powerful kings of the 18th dynasty. He is responsible for having the most statues built that survive in his likeness. So if you were to go to pretty much any museum that has any Egyptian information in there, you can pretty much bet your bottom dollar that one of the 250 statues are in one of those museums there. Touching on the symbology, obviously symbology is very, very important. Again, with what we're dealing with now, the Ayeret, which is representing the Kundalini energy. So again, we know we're dealing with somebody who is involved in the esoteric arts, which means he's trained by the priests in the temples and things like that. I mentioned to you at the start that, or I even mentioned to you upstairs, that our ancestors dealt with ecology. They dealt with what they could see in nature and they applied it to their sacred and their spiritual systems and their physical principles. What we've got here is Sekhmet, okay? Sekhmet was the lion-headed female deity, or the female Necha, okay? Or the Necheret, okay? What she represents, or the word Sekh, means power, okay? Notice that this is a female deity and not a male deity to represent power. So at no point are any of our ancestors stepping on the women and saying, oh, because you aren't as physically strong as us, that don't mean that you aren't mentally or spiritually or as strong as us at all. Okay? Another point that I'll make is there was no deity who was actually any more important or less important than any other deity, male or female. Okay? Because we're looking at a diamond. How can one side of a diamond be more important than another side of a diamond? Okay? But what we're dealing with Sekhmet, okay, as I said, is people become very, very confused when we're dealing with Kemetic spirituality and Kemetic spiritual systems because there's so many. What we have to remember is we're dealing with a set of people who spanned over 3,500 to 4,000 years. So things are going to change. Your level of understanding is going to change. Okay? So What people don't understand is that sometimes different cities or different power regions were in control, and therefore when they were in control they were saying this is the system that the country should follow. No different to how the church works, okay? Or for example in England, sometimes it was Protestant, sometimes it was Church of England, sometimes it was this, and they were beefing with each other. Same in ancient Egypt. And as the spiritual system evolved, so did their principal systems, okay? So I mentioned upstairs how there's nothing new under the sun. There's biblical stories which are blueprinted off this deity here. And I'm going to tell you the story quickly. In one of the stories, Ra was the king of earth. Okay, he was the deity. Obviously, we know it's not a real story because Ra was not real. He's the sun. The sun don't work on earth, so we know this. But Ra was the king of earth, okay? And the people in ancient Egypt were like, Ra, you're old, we're tired, you're ruling now, we don't like the way you're looking after us. And Ra was like, yo, like you're my creation, how dare you be so disrespectful? And he was like, that's it, I'm wiping you out. And he sent Sekhmet down to earth, and Sekhmet went on some mad bloodlust and started killing everybody. Okay? After a couple of days, okay, Ra changed his mind. He was like, Ra, these are my creations, how can I do this? I'm going to change his heart. Okay? Ra then sent down Jehuti, the ibis, the ibis is the deity we were talking about earlier, and Jehuti turned the river Nile into a red wine that Sekhmet mistook for blood. So she dived in and she got drunk and she passed out. Okay? While she was passed out, Jehuti turned it into a cat. And the cat is the other deity that we see as Bast. You know, we see the cat deity all the time. So what we have within that is, we have the story of obviously the deity changing, which is why we get so confused sometimes, because they're like, oh, well, this deity evolved into this deity, how does that make sense? It's because of the stories and the symbolic stories and the scientific stories that fall within it. I mean, if you had time to go deeper into it, we'd be able to talk about scientific things. But what story does that remind you of? About God getting vexed with humans, deciding to end it, and then changing his mind? And turning water into wine. Yeah, turning water into that. That would have gone over my head there. So all of these different things, even if we're being modest and just say 500 years, that's 500 years before you get your Bible and all of these things here. So what I keep saying it, we have to take back control of the information, because for as long as we don't control the narrative and we get it served back to us, we'll be bamboozled, right? I tell you what, we never really do this one, but whilst we're here real quick, yeah, this symbol here, yeah, is something which if you were to go to any temple in ancient Kemet, you're going to see above all of the doors, okay? And it symbolizes Heru Badeh, okay, which is Heru at midday. And during one of the creation stories, or one of the many stories, Heru beat Set at midday by blinding him. So they use this sun disk here, and they put it in rings because it's in the sky. But ultimately, what it means is to, like, a man to come forth and kind of defeat himself, to know thyself. Okay? So they put this at above the doorways of all of their temples, to say, like, if you're coming in here, like, be prepared to learn and study yourself. Your higher self, yeah. So, okay, unfortunately, we was going to be able to touch on this, but you know, the Sphinx, okay, in ancient Kemet, that there is another symbolic representation of what we just spoke about there, about man knowing thyself. Because as human beings, within our brain we have an animal nature, and you also have the human nature as well. With the Sphinx, or Heru Emarketi, what they're saying is you have to master your animal nature to enter into your godly nature, which is why the head of the Sphinx has the menace crown on there, which we discussed being obviously, you have to be studying for 40 years, okay, so you have to be very wise, okay. So man know thyself. Whenever you see that, that's what it's saying. Obviously, woman know thyself as well. Okay, as we've already discussed, they weren't sexist back in the day. No, at the start of this, we were talking about. Hold that, guys. It's this that I want to show you guys next. You know, at the start, we were talking about the last African king of Kemet, okay, and why he was so important. This here was his per-Ankh, his house of life, his mestep, his sarcophagus, basically. This is what it was stored in. Okay? Without going too deep into it, all I want to do is ask you to all just bring your attention to the holes in the bottom of the per-Ankh, okay? Because this is how now we're able to define and clearly separate ourselves from European culture, okay? Because European culture is a beast, okay? Let me tell you this. When Roman people came into ancient Kemet and they saw these, they removed the sarcophagi out or the sahu out. And it is known, you can read the book by Sheikh Anthony called Civilization and Barbarism. The Europeans were known to grind down the mummies, water it, and put it in water and drink it because it believed that it would give them the power of the pharaohs. It's real talk. The book is called Civilization and Barbarism by Sheikh Anthony. They've documented it. But what they would do after that, another thing is, you know, the Romans were all cool with brother to brother love and things like that. They used these as baths, okay? So those holes would be plugged in and you'd see, I don't know, what, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 man maybe in there holding a bath together, okay? But obviously the weird thing for us to deal with here is this is somebody's resting place. This is somebody's grave here, okay? So when we're dealing with the comparison of the two cultures here, this is what we're dealing with. Thank you so much for coming out here, everybody.
A bit louder than that.